Time when we was in Roanoke, my aunt told my dad, and she called him Bud. She says, "Come on, Bud, get your family together. I'm gonna take you for a ride."
Mhm.
Well, my aunt had a house in the mountains, up near mountain. You all are aware of that, where that's at. But we got in the car and we rode toward Tinker Mountain, and we got between Roanoke and Tinker, and she stopped the car and she took us to a little patch of woods, which is about the size of two city lots, not blocks, but city lots. And we got out of the car and we walked into these lots that were covered with trees and weeds. Just looked like a patch of woods. And there were stones in there. She says, "These are some of your relatives in here. These are fractions that are mainly in this cemetery."
Mhm.
And I said, "Wow, that's interesting." Well, I was young, and that didn't really kind of make too much of a big hit on me because I was young.
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, that's very, very, very interesting." But they were all glowed over. The cemetery, the grave sites were glowed over. They were just like rocks, and so maybe a little etching on the rocks, carvings on the rocks, and so on and so forth. And it was at an intersection. I remember that between Roanoke. I've got to Tinker Mountain. My aunt had a very nice house in the mountains. It was a little rambler, one level house.
Mhm.
It was in the mountains, and you could see Tinker Lake from her house. And it was Tinker Lake was probably a mile away, or half a mile, 45, three-quarters of a mile away, but you could see it from there. And I had to say she had a little 22. She said, "Oh, you can go out and shoot some stuff with this 22 pistol." And I'd go out and shoot it at rabbits and squirrels or whatever I could find to shoot at, which was not usually nothing. Then she told my dad, "Come on, bud, I want you to meet some people." I said, "Okay." And my dad said, "All right." So we all jumped in the car and we went down the road from her, probably a mile, half mile down the road from where she lived, where her mountain house was. And there was a kind of a shack, nothing like what she lived in. It was a shack. It was
Mhm.
like just a shack. And she said, um, "These are some of your relatives. These are some of your fraction relatives." And I didn't get out and go in the house. My mother didn't either. My little brother didn't either. Adopted brother didn't either. But when my dad come back, he said the people weren't very hospitable. They were um, they were kind of cold toward him. The house, there was quite a few people lived in there and in there at the time, and the floors were dirt, and there
Mhm.
was no windows. There were shutters, and they stayed in there for 5 minutes, came on back, and got in the car and went on back to Virginia. I mean, back to Roanoke, and that's basically my story from Roanoke.